pledge and a prayer.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, please help us to be strong leaders with integrity, reliability, and commitment to our community. Please help us to serve with sincere compassion, honesty, and grace. Please give us open eyes to see the needs of our city and open ears to hear perspectives that may differ from our own. Help us to always remember the needs of the few as we make decisions for the many. Thank you for this opportunity to serve the city of Falmouth. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Do we want to wait and do them under public comments, or let's just go ahead and, we'll start with the sign-in sheet, if that's okay. We got one person signed up to speak so far. Do you want to stand up and speak? Come on up.
Hi, I'm Patrick Krogman. I'm the Assistant Chief of Northern Pendleton Fire. I'm going to plead with you to keep your own department. It's never a good idea to walk away or let your department walk away. It was obvious the other day that the county does not want a merger. They want a takeover. You will have absolutely no control of your department. Talking to your volunteers, they do not want to be part of the county department. I will tell you, we've given you an offer from Northern Pendleton. We'd like to talk to you again. That offer is negotiable. We will take your volunteers. You will keep your house. You will keep your equipment. All right. Please, before you do anything with the county, come talk to us and make an informed decision. If you all have questions for me, I am a 48-year-old or 48-year experienced firefighter. I was chief in Newport. I was chief in Anderson County. We just hired a lieutenant that's been chief twice. Another lieutenant that's been a long-time officer in Campbell County. We have an experienced administrative staff. You all have an experienced administrative staff. We're grown adults. We can sit down in a room and work together, and we would love to do that. All right. Do y'all have any questions for me?
I do not, but I mean, I will go ahead and say, if you guys want to discuss some of the fire stuff now, I mean, we can. It's not on the agenda, but it's a regular meeting, so we can kind of, I don't think we should be reducing the fire protection throughout the county and city. And essentially, from the conversation and hearing, and I understand, I know our guys, the 2600 trains a lot with 2800.
They do.
You guys do a lot of things together. You guys have supported each other and have a great working relationship. It would be nice to see at some point that 2700 can get included into this relationship that you guys all have.
They get invited all the time. They do not respond.
And essentially the idea or the thought that 20 volunteers are going to step away, like that's not the path I want to see us go down.
Not what this county needs, believe me.
Yeah, because it's not just going to hurt the city, it's going to hurt the whole entire county. I mean, essentially between the two departments, we have 52.
Yes.
I'm not sure how many's on Northern Pendleton's roster, but just in the conversation we had the other day at the fiscal court, there's 52 volunteers between our two departments, and they're not sharing rosters there. So that's 52 solid volunteers.
And that's a problem in itself. They are not allowed to join the county fire department.
No, I know, but they're allowed to join 2800, 27,
Right.
like, so.
Because we cooperate. Their administration does not want to cooperate with the Falmouth guys. I do the training for Northern Pendleton. These guys show up for training. They've impressed me quite a bit. Some of them still need some work, don't they? Keep showing up.
But they're eager to learn.
But they are. They're eager to learn. They show up for training. They participate. They don't just sit and listen. They get up, do drills. They do what they need to do. And they've impressed.
I mean, I think it's a minimal cost when you look at the city's whole general fund revenue. I mean, they're just getting less than $200,000 of our general fund. I think it would be detrimental to the entire community, not just the city, but the county also, to lose volunteers. And I can't fix all the issues and all the things that have happened over the past and why everybody doesn't get along, and navigating that weeds is hard. And I'm hoping maybe with time there would be a better working relationship with the county's new department. But
I think both.
Personally, I think we should hold off and just keep our own
I think
department
both
for a while.
Northern and your department has displayed the willingness to work with them. It's the one department that does not want to work with the rest of us.
This may not be the time to ask this, but how much would it cost for us to win with you?
I don't have numbers with me. I know there was a
It
proposal.
wouldn't cost us to do anything to go to the county.
It's going to cost you.
Well,
I mean, Adam had said that
And let me
numbers
be
were not-
100% honest with you. What it's going to cost you? It's going to cost you lives.
It's gonna cost us volunteers.
It's going to cost you lives.
I mean, cause essentially then we're going from having 52 volunteers that could come in for a fire because we call mutual aid. And like the last time we had the fire over here by the railroad tracks that just got fired a couple weeks ago, the county came down to help with that. I think Northern Pendleton had some people down here. So and they're all calling for mutual aid. None of the three departments are going out and fighting fires independently of each other. They're relying on each other. So we would take out 20 of the volunteers that would possibly show up, and now we're just down to just the county's volunteers. And then the fact that if the county has a fire, they do put and I know it's frustrating for our guys, they put our guys on standby at the department. And I know they get frustrated because who wants to be standing around? But essentially, it means that if we have an emergency in the city, we still have response, and they're covering the county. And so that is kind of my concern. If we delete a whole department and we lose 20 volunteers out of that, that's also going to impact the mutual aid that we're giving the county. The county won't have us to rely on for any mutual aid either.
I'm just going to ask you to pull dispatch times for the Elm Street fire. It was a 24-minute response.
No, I
From dispatch to the time they got on the scene. I had two guys sitting behind me that were 4 minutes away and were told, stand by, stand by, stand by. They kept calling and begging to make the run, and the county chief kept telling them to stand by.
because they didn't even
Somebody
have
could have,
2,800.
and very well, I believe it's happened in the past where people have died because of that delay.
And because they didn't even ask, they put 2,800 on standby that morning too, didn't
Yes.
they? Yeah.
And we were told-
I don't know if that's true. I believe it.
We were told to stand by also.
Was a dispatcher disciplined for that, or is that just rumor?
Dispatch did their job and dispatched all three departments.
Because they initially called, when
Yes.
there's a structure fire, they automatically, the
They
way they're
dispatch
doing
all
it,
three departments.
they dispatch all three to get the closest people that can get there first.
Yes.
And then they kind of make the decision on how much more manpower they need or whatever is going on there. But no, I did hear about that. They did. They put them on standby, and then 11 minutes or so after the fact, they waited. Then they asked for them to come, and that really delayed that guy's fire response up there. That's a Duckers Woods. Or
It was a garage fire. It should have been a garage fire and burned the house to the ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry for interrupting. You said how much is it gonna cost for us to go to Northern? How much is it gonna cost us to go to county?
There was no number. They have to provide service for it. I'm just saying devil's advocate. I'm just saying, just keep our own fire department in that case.
I mean, I really think that we should try and keep. I think we should keep our department.
Can you explain the charge fee that they had set
Oh,
up?
so before, when we used to provide the service, when the city provided the service to the county, there was a number they were paying us every year. And my understanding of that was kind of like this average basic calls, and they had come up with this figure on what that would cost, and that's where that came. That was put in years ago, like where they have that number. But like, so the county was paying us, But then the county would bill their residents and recoup a lot of that money. And so that's where that whole, like, I don't want to rehash the whole conversation, how we got to where we got. But, I mean, when that was part of when this first became a thing a couple years ago, the city was asking the county to contribute a little bit more money, essentially, to the fire service, because most of the calls were to the county. That's our equipment going out there. It's putting strain on our trucks. We have to keep, we're the only ones that had, because we did Butler, the entire county and the city. And the county didn't want to contribute more, and the mayor at that time wanted to double the price. We went and had that joint meeting, and council met the fiscal court in the middle on the increase. And so they gave us like half of the increase that the other mayor had wanted. And then they were told they had a year to open their department, I guess, or something, and I'm not sure. I think that would have been the more appropriate time before the county started their own department to have a discussion about how we wanted to expand this into the county and all those things, but that conversation wasn't had then, and the county started their own department. But there was never a discussion when I was on council that once the county started their department, we would close ours. I thought we were always gonna keep ours. I don't know.
But the judge executive came to us with an offer, but really, I mean, he came to us with an offer that really wasn't an offer. I mean, essentially, we walked away that night saying no, because their offer really, they just wanted to take everything.
There was no doubt.
Wanted to take over.
There was no doubt after that meeting the other day that they want to take over. They don't want a merger, and that's why I stood up and tried to explain the difference. And my question about the fees was, he was talking about charging city residents fees.
Because we would pay, because they bill so even now, so if they have a call in the county, they bill their county residents for them responding. And what we had always discussed was, if we ever went that route, the city would then continue to pay that for, if they're responding to a call in the city, instead of letting them bill the city residents, they would bill the city, and the city would pay that on behalf of the residents for them responding. But then they brought up the car accidents, which is completely irrelevant, because they bill that to the insurance. So
yeah, that's what I was
they can continue to bill that to the insurance.
I was kind of confused about that, because the way he presented it, it sounded like the city was going to pay a fee.
Yeah, we were not paying for car accidents.
That the county was not, and that's
because they're billing the insurance for that.
And they even said that.
Yeah, so David kind of corrected that, but
you can't have a separate fee for one set of taxpayers than the other.
No, you can't, and so that was. But at the end of the day, I really just think it would. I get it would be free, essentially, or to a point. It would depend on how many calls we had that year. If the city has a crap ton of calls, we're going to be paying that out in fees. But I don't. Apart from saving some money, I think it's not. There's no other benefit. There's absolutely zero benefit to the city residents, because there's not. When they have a fire, I just think having the option to have 52 volunteers be able to come, which I know they don't all show up and all, but like to have that number to pull from, and even for the county to be able to pull from that for mutual aid from us, I don't want to see that many volunteers walk away. That would be detrimental to this community.
Yeah. The only benefit I have seen from this whole thing so far is that Northern Pendleton would gain a bunch of volunteers.
Yeah, that's not going to do us a lot of good. You guys
it's
are like 15, 20
anything.
minutes away.
It's not going to do
no
you
offense,
anything. It's going to do us good, because we're going to gain volunteers. That's the only benefit.
My mom would appreciate the extra volunteers.
I'm sure she's in our district.
Yes.
But that's the only benefit I've seen this whole conversation to this point.
And that's not going to benefit the city residents.
No.
It left me really uneasy when they were saying, because the part came up where it's like, okay, you want us to sign over the assets as part of this and whatever, and they're like, no, you get rid of that, you can surplus to get the money back, we'll just put one of our trucks in there. If they were to be thinking forward actually keeping that building open and running, they would need the assets to run it. Like, to me, just saying, oh, we'll just put a truck in there, it almost seems like they have a foot out the door already, like in a year or whatever the contract would be out, be like, we don't, we're gonna move the truck back. You can use the building for whatever you want.
Yeah, and then, that was kind of my confusion too. So I'm like, well, why wouldn't we keep our trucks? Because now, if you have a call, I would assume that they don't have a lot of trucks. How many trucks do you guys have, Red?
As of right now, we have
2 pumpers, 2 pumper tankers, 1 tanker, but it's got a small pump on it, so it's not classified as a pumper tanker.
Can we change the question to how many operational trucks?
Okay. How
So
many-
we
how
have
many
It does make a
2
difference.
engines, we have 2 pumper tankers, 1 tanker, 1 brush truck, and then we have the aerial, but it is currently not in service.
And so that's kind of like,
Well, it's an Italian vehicle, but that's not, that's not fighting fire.
and I mean, essentially then, like, let's just say we went this route and we said, okay, we're gonna let the county kind of take it over, they're gonna put one of their trucks down here, so, and we'd give them, I guess, like all the guys' equipment, so they, if in a perfect world, all these volunteers were gonna go join the county's department, like, why wouldn't you keep another truck though? That way you have that, so you can send your other trucks to that fire, and then you have a truck here for standby.
Control.
Well, we have to negotiate if we did that. But I can't see where the city would be doing, saving any money by going in with Northern Pelton. We just keep our own.
No, I mean, I agree with that point. I think the benefit that Northern Pendleton was offering was like some type of paid stay up or whatever, but I mean, I just think essentially, there wasn't much of a cost savings with the initial numbers, but Adam Fuller called me the other day and he said, just so you know, like those numbers are completely negotiable. I will say my mom is a taxpayer up there in the northern part of the county, and she kind of likes she's not a real big fan of all this contracting stuff because she feels she's paying that tax. She wants her resources there for
I
when she
understand.
needs it. And so that's again why I really feel like we should keep our resources here for our community when the city residents need it. It's already paid for. It's not like anything, we don't owe any debt on anything at the fire department. It's all paid for.
And that's why I'm not up here saying close your fire department and give them to us.
Yeah.
You know, you need to keep your own fire department if at all possible, but if you don't, we would love to sit down and talk to you and make a deal.
No, I appreciate that. Then that's at least something else to consider. But I personally would like us to just keep our own department. If we need to look at their budget closer or whatever, if we need to try and support them in some grants and support them in maybe trying to find some fundraising opportunities. I think Augusta does a lot of fundraising opportunities. Not so much like,
And
I'm not sure what all they do.
one of
but
the questions I asked them Monday night in training was if that tanker fire in Newport happened in the middle of Falmouth, are we prepared to handle it?
No, I don't.
This county is absolutely not.
I mean, I think when you have something like that big, it's an all hands on deck thing. I mean, it was.
Just like the train wreck happened.
Oh yeah, I mean that was a.
Same thing.
Yeah, I mean,
We weren't prepared for that, but yeah, took care of it.
Yeah,
If you
but
have a
we-
structure, why don't you disregard it and put it on standby?
Do what?
If you have a structure in your area, why don't you disregard it or put it on standby? Before your engine blows out, why don't you do that?
Because we need manpower, we need help.
You got trucks, you got people.
Trucks don't put out fires, men do.
My point was,
Firefighters do.
is you like to be there first, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you like to see
I
what
love
you
being
got.
there.
Yeah,
See what we got.
before you disregard.
But I can also pick up the radio and say cancel.
Yeah, after we're there, if you don't
and,
have
Makes sense.
and I think that.
While you're around, if we get there and we don't need you, I will cancel you, I promise you.
And I'm hoping that if we just say, hey, we're gonna keep our fire department, that'll also calm down some of the drama, because right now you've got this one department kind of biting at the bit. And I will say, I was very disappointed when I made that post speaking about the city's fire department. The comments on there were from the county's fire chief, and most of all their members were all just this negative nonsense about the flood, which my post was not about the flood. My post was about all the things that this fire department does for us apart from fighting fires. And so like that tone there, I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't really appreciate that. And I hope that maybe eventually there could be a better working relationship between all the departments, because you guys all essentially want to serve the public. You guys all have the best intentions. I think the leadership kind of gets in the way of that for you guys. And I know that's frustrating for you guys, but I don't get to vote on it. But I wholeheartedly think we should keep the fire department, because
We're dealing with 2 KB's complaint that came from within the county department.
oh, I know. Oh, I've heard about it. No, I know. And that's it. Like, and that's, I'm so tired of hearing all the negative. And just like, I don't so much like to sit here, I'm not trying to down the county's department essentially either. Like, I don't think we need to go down that path of I don't think anybody's better
No.
than anybody. I think we all have a bunch of volunteers, very dedicated volunteers. They've got their own dedicated volunteers. We've got dedicated volunteers. You guys have dedicated volunteers. And this trying to nitpick everybody else's department and point fingers is exhausting.
Yeah, it's
And it's
two sides, it's gonna be somewhere, probably the trick's probably somewhere in the middle,
no 100%. There's three sides to every
Three
story.
sides.
Yeah, and
you know?
and so I feel though that it would. I don't see any benefit to the city residents to do away with the department.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you
Thank
for coming. And council's not voting on any of this tonight, just so you guys know. Like, there's really not. I mean,
Nothing to vote on.
I'm gonna propose a budget, and in my budget that I'm proposing that we fund this fire department. So when we get to the budget time, I think would be the time that council could try and take that out, but.
I mean, and to be fair, the fire department will exist unless there was a ordinance
Yeah.
amendment to.
So they would have to
Keep it,
announce
so-
an ordinance, and there has to be 2 readings of the ordinance. So even if the council all of a sudden comes next week with the or the next meeting with the proposal to take the fire service or change, amend in any way the fire ordinance as it is now, it'll be on the agenda, and then there has to be a second reading of that before it could even pass. So, and I know Megan called over to Rita, because we talked about putting it on the ballot. Megan called over to Rita, and she said that we couldn't do that, and
Plus, you start at setting the precedent, you wouldn't put everything on the ballot, you can't do that. That's what we're elected for.
no, I get that, but I do really think, I mean, I will go around and hand poll. I will sit in here and let people come in and cast their votes on, like, to hear what the citizens truly want. I think, I mean, I don't think we should put every topic on the ballot, but when you're talking about closing a whole department, a public service department that's been the longest standing department in the city or in the county altogether, like, I think that is something that the people should have a say in.
You could do a survey or something.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we should, at the very least, survey the public residents, the city-only residents, to find out how the city residents feel about it.
If anything.
Something we could send out like a utility bill or like a form or.
You could send out an individual survey letter that
Okay.
people could return, mail
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, I mean, we could do that.
Hey, if you want to get some extras, these guys will be glad to hand some out as well. Just drop them off at their house in their mailbox. Make sure they at least got a couple of them so they got a good voice.
There we go. Instead of mailing them, we could just let them go. Let them go. Put them on everybody's door.
Save us hundreds of dollars.
No, seriously. Megan can print it out. You guys want to go pass them out? I mean, I'll go with you. I'll go pass them out. I'm all for getting some step
We can
in.
take a Saturday morning, get up early and start it.
Opportunity to answer questions.
Right, I mean, they can answer, we can answer questions for them, or they can ask more questions. And
Yeah, no, I think that should be our next step then. Is that
I'll
good
print
with
out a
council?
survey.
Oh my god.
Alright, so we'll have Megan print out a survey. I will go help if any of you guys would like to come help and go pass these out to all the city residents. Then we'll get the fire department to go help us. And we can leave them with the residents, or heck, we can take their vote right then and there. I don't care. But
So we're on the topic of the firehouse. Can I ask a question
Sure.
without signing? Okay. I'm hearing a lot about monetary. It's all money, budget, and I understand it plays a big role in running a department. It's not cheap. But why is it nothing about the safety of the citizens? My house burns down. I don't want to wait 30 minutes for the county to get their truck out of the barn, which we've sat and watched, to come rescue my kids in their rooms stuck in a fire. My mom, my husband, all of my friends, they all live in the city and it's all monetary.
and that's the bigger thing, is like the volunteers are gonna be live here.
I mean, I think like too, I mean, like, you know, when the discussion first started too, I mean, when you look at it, I mean, that county fire department is only, it's just a little bit up the road, you know what I mean? It's still essentially, to me, that's still, it's
Close,
not
yeah.
city limits, but to me, this,
Yeah.
you know, it's still Falmouth, you know what I mean? And I think, you know, that's kind of where we all were. I mean, it's so close, why would we, you know, why do we want to? mean, it is, I mean, it is, number one, it should be about safety, and I agree with you 100%. But budgetarily, I mean, we have to run a city, and that's what we're elected for. I mean, that's our job, and we have to find the best way, or I shouldn't say the best way, because cutting any department is not a good way, but we have to find a way to fund everything in the city. It's not easy for us either.
And
It's
in
been a really
defense,
tough decision for us to try to even think about.
and in our defense, when I took over the seat, council had no idea what had happened with the budget.
No, I think we did.
Oh, I 100% had no idea that departments were allowed to spend way over what they were budgeted for, and then that, in addition to that, we would have to increase their budget. There was never a discussion with council saying, hey, do we want to give a certain department more money? We had to.
But we had to amend the budget in order to pay those
Well,
cars off.
But that was a small part of that. That wasn't like saying, well, here, you're gonna get an extra $100 and some thousand in your budget. That was never the discussion. That was a one-time payment to pay those cars off. There should have been money in, I mean, if we'll just put it out there, we're talking about the police department budget. I think it was like 270, it was a couple $100,000. But they were paying their cruiser payments out of their budget. And so when we paid that off, that should have freed up money there, that extra money, because they're not paying the payments anymore. And I forget what that line item actually was then. So that would have set there, that would have been where they could have spent more money. I don't know how that got into just, I don't know where the top of that was, because we should have only had to give them $770,000 this year. Until Kyle said he was resigning, when I first got the first budget proposal.
You made the budget, you made the budget higher than anybody else has ever done.
Okay, so let's get back to that. When I took over, they said we're setting the same budget as last year. If we were gonna do that, the police department would have got $770,000. That's what they were set at the year before. When Ramona handed me that paper, it was almost $1 million. It was over $900,000 that they needed. Kyle said he was leaving. I called Ramona right away, said pull it from their budget. So then we got to set him at the $800 and some thousand. So again, there was
You
never.
shouldn't have to do it. I mean,
In hindsight, I shouldn't have. In hindsight, we should have just laid people off and called it a day, and we wouldn't have had to deal with all this stuff. But I was trying to stabilize that department for that time being. We were getting the money from Trinity, so I knew we would have time to sort this out, and that's why we had Paul take over, and we've gotten to the place now that we're trying to sort it out. But I've said this from the beginning. I don't know any other city that can afford or does give 80% of their general fund to one department. There's not. And so that's factored into other departments, not just compromising the fire department. It also puts a stress on City Hall.
we can talk about that when we get ready to do the new budget.
You know, so I'm just saying though, so it wasn't like, there wasn't a choice. It wasn't like council sat here and said, hey, we should give the police more money than the 770. It was, we agreed to do that instead of laying anybody off at that time. Cause I mean, we just hired one officer. Luke hired her the same week that he left, and I didn't even know about it. None of us knew about it. So I didn't want to just be like, oh, well, sorry, never mind, we're gonna have to lay you off after she just started working like a week before. That would have been like, it would not have been a nice thing to do. So I think we did the best with what we had to do at the time. In hindsight, it's caused a lot of extra drama, but that's the only reason why this whole discussion came of not having the money. We have the money, we're fixing the budget now. The police budget is gonna have to come back down, so we're not compromising other things. So I'm gonna propose, just so everyone knows, I'm proposing a budget including the fire department. And if we need to take out the paid training, we can do that. Like, I know you guys probably don't wanna hear that, but I mean, if we're all gonna compromise here and work together, the police are losing money. If we've gotta take paid training and stipend runs out, then, I mean, that is something that we can look at doing.
None of us are in it for the money.
No, I'm not saying you are. I'm not saying you are. I guess we'll find out how dedicated you guys really are, Tom.
You're gonna find more dedication here than any department around.
But I mean,
Northern's right there with us, but we're not in it for the money, I'll tell you that.
And then I
So-
think we should really look at some grant opportunities and some fundraising options to try and help you guys too. I mean, so that way, I mean,
Yeah, and we're not here to ruin anybody, like, we're not here to ruin a department either, I mean, I personally have the utmost respect for you guys, because you do something that I could not do. I could not run into a burning, building while everybody else is running out. And, I mean, we weren't here trying to hurt feelings or to break anybody apart. It just seemed like at the time, because we had another fire department opening, and we thought it was a good solution. We were totally wrong. I mean, we've learned through discussion that
I think it would have been the
there's not
easier.
gonna be unity.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, and we've learned that. So, I mean, we would never, put you guys in a situation where you're having to volunteer somewhere that you absolutely hate, or, anything like that. I mean, I'm completely open to, restructuring the budget. And I have called around. I mean, and there are a lot of fire departments that are kind of working the same, as you guys on, on a much lower budget, I will tell you. Augusta, for instance, how much do you think their city gives them in their budget? $20,000. That's their entire year's budget.
They increased it by 5,000 because I got a copy of their budget today. I did. When she told me this the other day, because I was like, let me get, because it wasn't just there. We were talking about some of their other department budgets, and so they sent me their budget. Their mayor did.
So what they do in Augusta is they're solely based on fundraising. They do their own fundraising. I didn't really dive into it, like, well, what do you do for fundraising? But I do know that they have some wealthy contributors that will match whatever they raise. So I mean, there are a lot of ideas that that we could go down. I mean, just to increase your funds. I mean, I'm hoping there are ways that we can fundraise and do things like that, things that we can explore. I mean,
These guys and girls aren't against that. They love this city and they love this department. And if it comes down to us having to beat feet and fundraise to keep this department open, I think I can speak for everybody in this room. We're more than willing to do that. To touch on the time thing, I know that the county's station is just up the road. It's on top of the hill. I know I'm just the captain for the fire department, but if I can give council just one homework assignment before we make a decision, it's get on YouTube and look what a 3 to 5 minute range will do to a structure fire. The amount of growth that goes into a house fire in 3 to 5 minutes.
I already know the answer to that.
Her daughter's house burnt down.
It's 3 to 5 minutes is a long time, and they are 3 to 5 minutes from us. And the fact is, they're going to be coming with us to that structure fire here in the city. But if we can get there 3 to 5 minutes quicker, that's a life being saved. That's a house being saved. That's all that matters to this community, is that their houses and their lives are being saved. So if anybody hasn't seen the videos, you can look it up on YouTube. There's a million videos of what 3 to 5 minutes can do to a structure fire. Red can tell you about it just as much as I can.
Okay, well,
One more point. You asked about financial. There is a financial increase. It may not be to the city, but there is to the residents. All of the residents, and we looked probably 120 houses, will go from a ISO 6 to an ISO 10, which means their
is that
property
the
insurance
guys?
will almost double.
Is that like the Blue Jay Circle and stuff like
Blue Jay
that?
neighborhood, yes.
Yeah.
Their ISO will increase.
Their ISO will increase, and that will, it's probably almost double.
And that's confirmed with insurance companies. We aren't just.
I mean, when I talked, I reached, what's the lady's name? that came down from office?
Michelle Barrett.
So she sent us back the, because she wasn't confirmed. KLC does not take the ISO, whatever, factor into the insurance, the property insurance that the city's personally paying. But in her email, she said it will increase for your businesses and your residents, your private homeowners. And them being south of town, it would increase for them. They are a little more south. And then, I mean, the other idea and hope that we kind of were talking about as we adjust this water and sewer rates was, increasing the ones outside of the city limits, because eventually the next discussion is going to be annexing in all the people. That's probably going to, when you get up, I don't know how far out like Rhonda and all that is, but you might be in that same situation.
I will say also, our ISO rate has not been reevaluated since the purchase of the aerial that we have in the station. So there is potential our ISO rate may go down a little bit. We haven't been reevaluated since the ladder has been purchased and some other changes have been made within the department. You know, we're looking at the potential of doing stipend shifts in the next year if the budget will allow. That will help our ISO rate.
Well, you better get out there and start fundraising.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you guys
Get
said.
survey first then.
Well, yeah, we're gonna survey first.
Survey.
Survey first. You guys have anything else? Anybody else wants to add? All right, well, thank you guys for coming in. You guys are more than welcome to stay for the rest of this meeting. We're gonna talk about some taxes, but if not, then we will, as soon as Megan
As
gets.
fun as that sounds.
You sure you don't wanna stay? Okay. Well, we're gonna jump into the next.
Yeah, I'll let him out, hold him out. Throw him off, he trampled.
We're gonna go on to the
Thank you
acceptance
all.
of the minute meeting.
No problem.
We appreciate it.
So we're looking at the March 5th minutes. I don't know how to use it.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes from March 5th.
I'll second.
All in favor? Now we're gonna go on to the old business, the taxes. So I kind of printed out some examples of some things that some of the other cities are doing. I think for the payroll tax, we should just, if you guys wanna go that route, we should just keep it simple. We're just gonna put in a percentage across the board for everybody that works in the city, regardless what they're making, city employees, all the things. So if you guys thought about that on like a number?
I called, City of Carlisle, because they have a population similar to ours, and the, I think the per capita income's a little bit less than ours. But anyway, I saw on one of my things that I printed out, they have a payroll tax, gross receipts tax, and, what's the other one?
Net profits.
Profits tax, all three, and the county has 1%. So I said to the clerk, I said, how did your citizens feel about that when you instituted those? She said, we've been on it for 30 years. I said, we're behind the times. She said, you definitely are.
No, 100%. I think that they should have at least done one of the three at some point. And I did print off one of these ones I printed off. It's not that they're paying taxes on the net profits, but the net profits dictates what their license fee is every year. So the more net profits that they're making, the more their occupational license cost is. I'm not sure which one it is, but it's on one of these things. But it like put it up into different amounts. Like I think the highest was almost like 1,500 or something. I should have been a little more organized, but I've been real busy this week. Yeah, you're kind of sharing ones.
I think you just got 33 minutes. Yeah, well, I think this time away. Yeah. 33. Yeah, because I've got 10 more than
There's a table in these surroundings.
Y'all keep up the good work.
Bye, Norma.
Bye. Now, Brooksville has a 1.75 payroll tax, but Bracken County doesn't have one.
The county doesn't have that.
County doesn't have one.
Well, I did go over and try and talk to the Kent, so here we go. It's on the 110. Like they do their occupational license fee payment. is based off of their gross receipts for the preceding year. So, like the first $99,000, it's $60, and then it kind of goes up. If it's 100,000 to 200,000, they're paying 95. 200,000 to 300,000, they're paying 195. I mean, I don't know if we have any businesses in the city that are grossing, $700,000 or more, but theirs would be like 1,000. So like that's how they kind of do
Annually?
theirs. Yeah.
700,000?
Yeah, like if that's their annual gross receipts is 700,000 to 999. They're instead of paying like we just do the flat $50. That business alone, just that business that makes that much would pay 1,040. So it's kind of based off of. Is that a reflection on that mirror, or did somebody walk?
No,
by?
somebody back here.
Walking past you.
It's one of the fire department calls.
Oh, they must have climbed over the fence. Okay. Anyways, so that's how that works. But so that's an option. I think taxing just gross receipts would be hard for our businesses that aren't actually producing a revenue.
Yeah, I think gross receipts would kind of get complicated for everybody. I kind of did a little bit of talking with some of the business owners, and I mean, of course, everybody is opposed to more taxes naturally. Yeah. However, I've gotten some feedback that a lot of them seem to be more willing, and it would be more productive to go the net profits route than it would the payroll tax. And I can kind of sympathize with that too, because if we do the payroll tax, then the taxes are coming from essentially our citizens, because not a lot of people travel here for work. And I can sympathize with that because we're a low income community. There's nobody really working in town that's making millions of dollars. And the net profits side of it goes off of the business's net profits, which, depending on how some of the bigger businesses in town, like Dollar General and, all them, Family Dollar and that, depending on how they do their taxes, we could potentially benefit a lot just from a net profits tax. I mean, ideally, I would almost like to see us try the net profits route, see where that takes us, and then if we have to, we'll revisit for the payroll tax. But I'm more leaning towards the net profits first, as opposed to going directly after for the payroll.
I will say, when looking at some of this, I don't think net profits itself brings in a ton of your biggest revenue is going to be your payroll tax.
Oh yeah.
And essentially, there are a lot of people that we don't get a lot of like outside commuters, but we do have a lot of people that do come into the city to work here that don't like just live out in the county.
Yeah.
I mean, Mr. Moreland pointed
Most
out
of them do.
quite a few examples of places, businesses. I really think the payroll tax, one, it will bring in the revenue the quickest because it's paid every quarter. It's going to be the most profitable out of any of the three to go that route.
And we have a good idea of how much it'll bring in based on the county's numbers.
Yeah, we know what the county's getting on their 1%.
Yeah.
I think and really, so I mean, at the end of the day, the less they're making, the less it's really, it's not going to be much, honestly, a year for them. But I think the payroll tax is one that I think that's one we should definitely do. In my opinion, I think it would bring in the quickest revenue, the most consistent, like it would be the easiest to implement and get started and going. I mean, I know people aren't gonna like it, but I mean, it's gonna spread
Nobody
the
likes
tax.
paying taxes. I mean,
No.
it's not about liking it. It's about we have to survive some way somehow. I mean, and this is it.
And people want more streets paved and that kind of thing, but you can't do it
If we don't
if we're working on the same money we had got in 30 years ago and the prices keep going up, we'll keep going in the hole.
Well, because in 10 years, I went back and looked at 10 years ago, the amount of revenue that they were bringing in from the property tax to now has not even increased $70,000 in 10 years.
Yeah, because they kept skipping the 4%.
Well, yeah, that didn't help at all. Because I think this last year's the first year we've done that since I was on council. We even went to the comp for it, which I think we should do the comp for again this year. I think we need to continue. That really just kind of covers it's.
What we're behind on.
Yeah. And that's probably where the 70% increase really came in, honestly, because we've lost some properties. And let's just be honest, that we have a lot of properties that I don't think all the properties have been reassessed. I've been trying to figure out some of that, because I mean, there are properties that are selling for a lot more than what they are being appraised at, and I mean, there was a house that sold around the corner from my house for like over 200,000, but like the house I'm living in is only appraised it's 60,000, and so like when you look at that, so like for my particular house, that's only $300 a year that they're paying in property taxes to the city, and a lot of the houses that were being, most of them, even when I was going through, like the past due, a lot of every year, it's not like there's not many places that pay over $300-400 a year per property. Like, so it's not just the house, like that's kind of the standard. You're not getting, it's not a bunch of money. And I know people, I've seen some posts on Facebook that they're a little upset about us coming after mailing out these letters for their taxes, but we gotta start somewhere. And it's stupid to go after other taxes when we're not even enforcing the taxes that we have on the books. So Megan did send out those letters, so I'm sure there are gonna be people, well, we didn't know, and and whatever, but it is what it is. That's the people that has to pay it. I feel bad for them. It's buyer beware, I guess. Get title insurance, I don't know. But we are going after the property taxes now, at least. But it's never gonna increase with the cost of inflation. Because that biggest increase is because we did the comp for this year. So if we're not increasing with inflation and property taxes, the insurance premium tax brings in almost as much as our property tax, thank goodness for that, but that's even gone down in the last few years, and I'm not sure why or how that is or what all gets calculated into that, but so that's not really inflating for us, unfortunately. So at least the payroll tax, people are getting paid more than what they used to be getting paid before, and so I mean, I just think it'd be the easiest one to go ahead and do. We just need a number, really, and then I can work on drafting the ordinance. And the county's not interested in giving us a credit. You guys heard Rick bring that up. I wasn't there asking the county for money. I was there advocating for the people that come here and work in the city, because a lot of other counties will give a tax credit, especially, I mean, they're taxing the whole county. We're just asking for a small portion, and I wasn't even asking for the whole 1%. I mean, if you just give a 25, like a 0.25% credit, and that doesn't benefit the city at all, because the city can put the 100, like we're gonna get our money too. It would take a little bit out of their pocket, yes, but it was kind of to help benefit.
But you can see why they wouldn't want to do it. I mean, I can.
I know, but like they're getting property taxes from us, they're getting payroll taxes from us.
As all cities are that way.
No, I get that, but there's not much reciprocation on things from them, but it's fine, it's cool. So I did go advocate for that though, but so there's your answer. They're not gonna give a credit. But I just need a number.
My initial thoughts are, I would say at least 1% matches the county that we know how much that is like 180,000-ish. The other side of me says, I would, at the same time, it's like I'd rather shoot a little high, because then nothing's more painful than having to come back next year and say, oh, we need to increase it again. Yeah.
I mean, I agree. If we go, we just.
You just wanna go with 1.5 and call it a day?
I say 1 myself.
Because the county they've gone up and down. I forget where they started.
They started 5.5.
And then they went up to,
1.
but did they go to 1.5 at one time?
1.5.
Yeah, they've gone up.
A 0.5%
I think,
Yeah.
and then it's back up to one.
I mean, because that is another thing. If the county really wants to kind of look at doing that, if they wanted to give the city residents a credit, they could then go to the rest of the county and say, hey, look, we're going to go to one and a quarter for everybody else, and we're going to give. I mean, like they have other ways to recoup. If they would have given the credit to the city residents, they have other ways to recoup it. We are restricted to just taxing the people that work in the city. They have other ways to recoup and wiggle things around, but they're never going to look at that option if that would have, like, I don't see them doing that to benefit the city people, but I mean,
I don't suppose they told you how much they get from non-city residents. Like
they are bringing in,
180 from city residents, but how much for
I
everyone
want to
else?
say it's like 1.2 or 1.3 million they bring in their revenue, and their Josh had texted me
I
about
got
it.
it somewhere.
But it's over $1 million.
Yeah.
That they bring in like all together
Mhm.
from their payroll.
Yeah, from all the payroll. I mean, we can't vote on it tonight. I just,
Just an idea.
we could vote on an essential, well, one, if you need
$1,358,981.56 countywide.
That's on the occupational tax?
That's on the payroll.
I mean, the
Yeah.
payroll.
Yeah, that's what they get from the whole county, and it's like around 200,000 for the city residents or whatever.
Yeah, but it's
186 something.
180, yeah,
Yeah.
around 200,000, a little bit less. And that's at the one. If we did the 1.5, it would be a little bit more than that. That we would get.
1.3, George. $70,000 between last year
Yeah, that's what I said.
and the year before.
1.3. 1.58,000.
Yeah.
So I'd go with 1.5.
That's what I'm saying. I say 1.5. That's my number.
I think
As long as if you guys are gonna, because if we put a number down, if Steve and I work on an ordinance and draft the ordinance, and then we go change that percentage, then we're gonna have to have a whole nother first reading. So that's why, if I could just at least get a majority is there a majority that's gonna go with the 1.5 on the payroll tax?
So it sounds like three of us, so you would tie break anyway.
I'm gonna hold you to that. I mean, is that kind of,
I mean, I look at it like this. If we go with 1.5,
we can always reduce it down
yeah,
if we
if
need
we
to.
find that we're in an overage, which, that's a dream world.
No,
But-
no, no.
We got plenty of stuff to fix, like roads. I don't think it over.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, we can always reduce if we feel that we have to, instead of hitting, you know what I mean? Like, just hitting them continuously.
Yeah.
Just do it once.
All right, we're gonna
Rip
draft
Band-Aid
us a
off.
payroll ordinance for 1.5.
when I worked at,
We didn't vote on it, did we?
school in Dry Ridge.
No, but
yeah,
he's
I was
gonna
in the-
draft it, so then we can do a first
Publish
reading.
it.
Yeah, we've gotta set it up for all those things, but if we come back in the next meeting, I mean, if you guys wanna ultimately change it, you guys can change it, then we'll do another first reading and all that, but
So just out of curiosity, like when it takes effect, like would that affect me either like wait till next quarter, or I guess it depends on the verbiage.
I think when Paul and I first discussed this, we were gonna do this and then try and put it into effect so it aligns with our fiscal year.
Guess it makes sense.
So it would start July 1, and then we would receive the first payment from that then into the quarter, which puts us into the fall, like, I don't know, what's it? My math sucks, so like September, October.
Yeah.
So that would be when we get the first payment.
Steve's even thought.
Yeah, no, I mean, wouldn't you wanna align it with, I guess it's payroll,
With
Are
the
they-
year.
the employer is collecting it
Mm-hmm.
and paying it to the city on a quarterly basis.
Mm-hmm.
Like the county does.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, do you want that to tag it on a tax year? But yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, we don't want to
Yeah.
wait that long.
No, I know.
We need money for this next budget year.
Yep.
So, okay, well, there's that one.
I've got a question going back to the fire department thing.
Okay.
Okay, when it was the city primarily taking care of most of the coverage, you didn't have the county fire department. Everybody seemed to be okay with that. So why now that you've got a county fire department, which is basically close to where our city department is, why is it not a good idea to get rid of the city department and let the county take over. You're just kind of flip-flopping.
Personally, the county probably should have started their own department a long time ago for their county residents. They
Right.
didn't, the city was doing it for all these years and whatever, but now that, like this, the city's fire department now is just solely focused, their city's their priority. We're not having to worry about the county's not our responsibility anymore. I mean, I don't wanna see 20 volunteers leave.
It just seems like an awful lot of money to pay for something that, you know, when it's like we really don't need it, because it was operating basically like that before, except, again, now you have a county fire department. So
Yeah,
why couldn't that replace the city?
So if we got rid of our department, so then, cause the county relies on mutual aid,
Mhm.
they essentially put our guys on standby at the firehouse. I think they get more mutual aid from, they'll call Campbell County, they'll call Harrison, they call whoever's out the other places, just kind of put us on standby. So if the county gets a call, and the city gets a call at the same time, who's gonna come fight the city's fire?
But you said earlier that the city rarely had any calls.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of calls. But do you
Well-
want it to be your house and your kid when you get the call?
Well, I'm speaking as a person that has a business, a residence, and then another piece of property in town, and I'm okay with it.
And if those if they like fighting fire so much, they'll go into the county or Beach Grove, whatever.
I just don't understand why we're trying to keep this fire department when we're now in a scenario which is just basically like what it was, or it could be like when it was just the Falmouth Fire Department. Replacing the Falmouth Fire Department with the county fire department, and it's gonna operate the same way.
Yeah, but they have the whole county to worry about.
Well, so did we at
We
one
did
time.
too.
No, I know that, and that.
So
and-
I guess then what's the
Before Beach Grove, then we hit the whole county, didn't we?
No, I get that. No, but Butler had theirs,
I just
and then
looking at
Northern
it.
Pendleton, and Butler used to take care of
Northern
like all the
Pendleton
way.
didn't have any.
But Butler used to take all the way care of all the way down to 17.
It's just that we're talking about putting a tax on people when we're.
Oh, I think we need to
spending
do the
money.
payroll tax either way. I mean, like we're way behind the times and going after. We need to
Yeah,
stabilize
but I
our
think,
revenue.
look, imagine if we got rid of the fire department, we saved $200,000, downsize, or the police department, and look at that's
Well, what are you
close
gonna
to
do with
$1
all
million.
that? So how much? Then we got to cut property. What are the citizens getting? What are you
Well,
gonna do with all the
hopefully
money?
you can take that money and put
Police.
it into improvements in the city.
No, he said get rid of the police too. I get improvement. What improvements into the city?
I don't know, look at the sidewalks and all sorts of stuff.
So,
around here.
at that point though, because essentially then you would have almost, I mean, because maybe 300,000 at the most would ever go to fund the clerk or in the mayor council or whatever. So that $1 million a year you're going to put into streets and sidewalks. So once you get the streets and sidewalks done, what are you going to do with the money every year? What are you giving the citizens for that money?
Well, if you improve the city, you're gonna improve property taxes, which are gonna bring in more revenue. I mean, I don't really see a downside. I mean, you don't do, I can be outvoted, but I'm not gonna vote for the payroll tax.
I mean, I think we need to do the pay. It's
Well, that's fine, but it's like, I just don't think it's the right thing to do, and when we're spending money that we shouldn't be spending. That's my opinion.
How much was the county department to start up? It was in the millions, wasn't it?
Huh?
How much the county department was to start up?
Oh, they're like in 500 million at this point, I think.
I don't think it's 500 million.
No, sorry, 5 million. I think they're around 5 million.
I'm just curious because it's like there's opportunity cost to closing down any department of that nature. Like if we were to close it and then
Try and reopen.
10
it
years
later.
down the road someone says, "Oh, that was a bad idea. We should redo that."
No, we wouldn't, and that's the other thing. Like, so what if we start getting some type of development here? You know, like what if we get to annex and we annex down all the way down to the extension office down there? Now we've got more developable land that we can go develop on, and we've got places coming. The city will never be able to financially afford to restart a fire department if that became a thing.
If our financial situation improves, maybe we would.
You would need $5 million as opposed to just. I mean, it would cost us a lot less just
We're
to
gonna
keep
need
that
$8
thing
million
open.
to fix the electric line.
Hey, did you know that Brook Grant's getting reinstated, and I'm really hoping Michelle's going to let me know if that included ours. So,
Fingers crossed.
but that you can't use general
I
fund money on
understand,
utilities.
I understand.
That you can't do. You can take. I mean, obviously, because they've been doing that for years, they've been taking utility money to support the general fund, but you cannot take any kind of general fund money to support the electric, water, or sewer.
No, I know that.
So essentially you're down to sidewalks and streets. And the other thing is we're getting money for streets now. I don't know why over the years the city wasn't going after asking the state for road money every year. I mean, so we fixed a lot of that stuff. We repaved roads last year. We're repaving several, like 4 streets hopefully this year. We're gonna put in for more money next year. If we're doing that every year, that's also gonna help. I mean, I know there's improvements that need to be made, and this is kinda it. You add in the payroll tax. We can cut our fire department down, like Amanda said, Augusta's giving them, it's 25, because they gave them an extra 5 in this last, like when I was looking at their minutes from the one meeting. But then when she sent me the whole thing, they also only budget their police department at less than $500,000. I mean, so and you add in more money though, like then we would have money to go work on some of that stuff.
But they also make each of their departments work through their like ad districts, like their area development. They make them fill out for any kind of grant and funding. Like, you know, the fire department's responsible for that. They did that last, like 2 years ago, I believe she said, they bought a new fire truck and they were able to come up with half of the money for the fire truck, but their area development had a grant where they did the other 50%. So I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, if our fire department is willing to fundraise like that and make that kind of money, or they're self-funded, I mean, I can see it. I mean, I'm willing to, you know, increase the safety in our city by having a fire department. So they have to be willing to put the work in too. I mean, that's just how I feel. I mean,
Yeah.
I love that we have a fire department. I've always loved that Falmouth has had a fire department. And I'm the same as you. I feel like it's just right up the road. You know, does it really matter? But it does. I mean, and they are right. I mean, if houses are so synthetic now, it takes a second for them to go up in flames. I mean, and even 5 minutes up the road, by the time most of these guys that are on the county fire department live in the county. They don't live in the city. A lot of our guys live right here in the city. I know I've used this example before, but when my daughter's house burned, and I know this doesn't count because it was a total loss because it was in Butler and there was no way they were going to make it there fast enough. But I can tell you that day, our Falmouth Fire Department, Sean and I just happened to be outside. We were pressure washing our house. She called me, my son-in-law called me on the phone and said, "Mom, our house is on fire." By the time I got back out the door and had Sean shut the pressure washer off, they were already in their trucks heading to Butler. I mean, I'm talking within 2 minutes. I mean, I don't know if the situation was that they were just at the house at that time and they were training or what, you know. But I don't want to take that away from anyone. And I never want to see anyone lose a life or, you know, family members. I mean, we lost 2 cats in that fire. That was so devastating to my family. And I know that sounds so silly, but I mean, had they just been a little bit closer, you know, to Falmouth, I always think that if they had just been a little closer, maybe we could have saved that house. But
I probably wouldn't save the house.
It
It's
wouldn't-
like Bobby Joe's.
no,
I mean,
but-
right here in
right,
Falmouth,
I mean,
wouldn't save.
it's just, I 100% get what you're saying about the fire department. I do. I mean, it's just a lot of money. But I do believe there are ways that we can decrease this.
Yeah.
And they are gonna have to learn
Yeah.
to self-fund, and we are one of very, very few fire departments that pay for their training.
Yeah.
Most of these fire departments, if they feel like if you're a volunteer, it's your responsibility to have the proper training to be a certified volunteer, which, I mean, I get that. I mean, I kind of feel that way too, because, I mean, I've like spoken with a couple and they kind of laugh when I said, well, do they pay for your training? And they're like, oh, no. I mean,
That was something that
we
I
pay
mean,
for our own
John
training.
and Luke and Dave
Like
kind
should've
of
done
got
that.
that, yeah. So I mean, that's it. There's ways we can cut theirs, and we can see how dedicated they are. If we take out their stipend for their runs, and we don't pay for the training anymore, and if they want to, I mean, I'd like to give them the opportunity to go try and fundraise and work with the ad. Because
Well,
right
we
now,
did
the
this-
only departments working with the ad is our water and sewer.
I think they've always done this stipends work for a long time, just
They
to
have,
the
yeah.
gas to get to the.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with that. The training, like.
yeah. No, I agree with that. We can do
Of
that.
course, yeah, we put the training stipend under the impression that there was nothing really wrong with the budget, so we
Yeah,
now
I know.
know.
Yeah.
But
And
that could be something that the fundraising, you know, like your training budget,
Well,
depends on how much you
we used to
fundraise.
have a women's auxiliary. They used to raise funds, they used to have dances and meals and raise funds for equipment and whatever.
Yeah, I mean, so I think we should at least give them the chance before we just cut it out altogether.
Dance is a good idea. A social interaction.
I was thinking a dunk booth and
Mr. Moreland wants to add something into your conversation.
Well, I got a couple of questions. I thought I wasn't gonna say anything. But this flyer you're gonna send around and get an opinion of everybody, who's gonna write that? Plus, well, what are you gonna ask them when they have no information whatsoever? Everybody in the city thinks everything's been taken care of. They don't know anything about the budget. You're gonna go say, do you wanna keep the fire department or do you don't? Oh yeah, I wanna keep the fire department. And that goes to everybody, non-property owners in the whole city. The people don't have any skin in the game.
They do have skin in the game if they're living in the house. I'm not a property owner, but I know 100% my landlord's not paying the property taxes out of his pocket. He's using my rent to pay the property taxes. My family lives in the home. So as much as I'm not a property owner, I mean, because what else, why would, if they're not renting, like the city's getting the property taxes regardless if I own the house or if somebody else owns the house.
voting rights go to the resident, not to the property owner.
Yeah.
Well, and to that fact too, and I will add just knowing what I know of the fire service, and I'm sure you can attest to this with what happened with your family. You know, it's not just the property. Let's not talk about the brick and mortar house. All your belongings inside of there, which 9 times out of 10, I've been to hundreds of fires where there's been 1 or 2 items that you can probably put in the shoebox that's more valuable than that house ever could be. And
Bobby
that's
was
worth
able to
a
get
lot.
some stuff out of his house that was really sentimental to him.
Well, the point is, what kind of information are you gonna give the residents for them to make a decision whether to keep it or not keep it?
Just basically that. I mean, I don't think that there's.
Just keep it or not keep it is all they're gonna, most people don't know. How many citizens were here tonight? I counted 2 citizens that weren't fire department or police.
But that's it. Like, this is the thing, though. We can't afford it. We've always been able to afford it. The only thing that happened and what went wrong is that one department's getting a lot more money than we can afford to be giving them. And so once we fix that,
You couldn't afford it if you're paying them half the money, because you're short everything else. Now, you mentioned about streets. Yeah, well, Houchin was in here, they got backwater in his.
that's a sewer issue. And his issue is he's illegally hooked into the sanitary sewer system. You cannot have your floor drains hooked into the sanitary sewer system. And my understanding is he's fixed that now. So he won't have that problem anymore.
Well, I just think I was gonna ask too, if you're gonna talk about a payroll tax, how many other cities like us have you visited and got a copy of their ordinance or whatever it is?
That's what all these papers
Are
are,
we
copies
gonna-
of
are we gonna
ordinances of
rewrite
other
our own?
places. Do what?
Or are we gonna just rewrite our own as we think?
We're gonna write our own.
We've got examples, but I mean, essentially they're all kind of the same. We're gonna have the employer withhold it. We're gonna ask for the 1.5. They're gonna pay it quarterly. Like all that stuff is pretty much consistent.
Are you gonna put in their penalties if they don't do it?
Yeah, no, that all gets put in, he will put all the standard and all of them have that in all the examples we have. They have the penalties for it. They've got refunds, extensions, different, I mean, like they all have their parameters. And I think the KRS kind of, it sets in a lot
And
of
it'll
that.
go through the normal process that any ordinance goes, where there can be public comment on it, and the public's gonna have 2 opportunities to see it and to make comment prior to it being enacted.
But we're dealing with a lot of companies out here that have dealt with that a lot of times, they can get around it. The Indians have taken over our service stations, our liquor stores, and, see, they're opening up another liquor store. Of course, that's the biggest thing, we talk about here, we're losing all of our money that they make, they go elsewhere with it. They don't put anything back in, they have no leadership. You see any of those on the highway out there on the school board, magistrate, city council, or any other organization in the city that tries to make it better. I don't know of one in any of the banks, any of those businesses. and we're not gonna drain us for $50 a year.
No, I know, and I mean, you should, I made a post about the people coming in to get their occupational licenses, and boy, did they not like that idea, but she sent out letters, and I think we should restructure our rates, or what we're charging them based off of the net profits, and going after it that way, taking their net profits, if they're making more money, if their business is in the city, with, or gross receipts rather, using their gross receipts
Don't make
to
any
sell.
difference. I'm just making it at different levels.
Yeah, no, so like your bigger businesses, and if you do your occupational license fee based off of their gross receipts, then like the dollar stores would be paying $1,000 a year as opposed to just the $50. I think we do need to restructure the occupational, the licensing number, because we are charging
No matter what
Susie
you're
Q
you're
making
paying the same,
candles,
right.
yeah, she's making candles at home, we're charging her $50, we're charging the dollar store $50 too. I think we should restructure that based off of their net profits, or, I mean, gross receipts.
We're staying away from gross receipts.
But we're not taxing the gross receipts, we're
Okay.
just using their gross receipt number to
Okay.
set their licensing fee.
Okay.
And so essentially, we're just making these bigger businesses pay more money. And then we could put the net profits and actually tax the profits that they're getting. And we have some businesses that essentially aren't making a lot of money. So they wouldn't pay much, or if anything, really, in the net profits tax. And then there would be a minimum, I think you set a minimum then for every year, so everybody has some type of fee they're paying on their occupational license, but. And I did ask KLC, I asked Morgan, when I was talking to her the other day, about trying to go after Amazon and these other delivery things, and it's the same thing as trying to go after UPS and the FedEx. She's like, if you had an Amazon hub here, if we had something more that tied them to the city, yes. But even if you tried to go after like their gross receipts or net profits, there's this whole calculation thing that it's like pennies you're getting, because essentially Amazon's not paying that tax to every city they're delivering in. Like, so the portion you get is so minimal, and the fact that we're not a very big city, they've got no hub here, there's no Amazon distribution center here, that trying to do that kind of stuff is just not, they don't do that. So. And then Marty and I talked, or no, it wasn't even Marty, it was his brother, sorry Marty, but.
They do look alike.
Next one.
Mark and Rick and I had discussed, and I did tell you about what I talked to them about, is we're going to give them a printout of everybody with occupational licenses. So then, as they're driving around and you see, some HVAC van that's not on your list, you can say, hey, go up to City Hall, you need to go get your occupational license. That came from your brother and Rick, not my suggestion.
Well,
That was them.
when I worked in Campbell County,
They did that, yeah. And I think that's how a lot of these roofer companies ended up on the last one, is because after the hailstorm, I think Steve Grove was doing that. So.
I want to go back to the fire department for a second. I know that we keep going, well, it's just something about this, like the survey thing. I think that, I personally think the survey is a bad idea, because we gave the entire city a chance on Saturday to come and voice their opinion about the fire department.
True.
And I feel like if citizens were concerned, we would have had a lot bigger turnout than just 2 fire departments and council. Because essentially that's what we had. And there are a couple of other people, but.
And they knew about Tuesday night also.
Right.
Actually.
So I mean.
I'm not doing a Facebook poll for that, sorry. That ain't gonna happen, because then we'll have everybody voting and all kinds of people voting and all kinds of nonsense. They worked great for the, Christmas festival idea, because it didn't matter who voted on that or whatever, but.
Again, it sounds like a good idea, but that's what they elect us for. To make decisions. I was on council for a month, and we raised the sewer and water rates. That was awful.
We're about to raise
But
them
we had
again.
to.
Well, they should have done a study then, or figured out how much they really needed to raise it, because they didn't raise that sewer rate nearly enough.
We did at the time. That was, what, 2018.
But that's why we're gonna restructure it, cause we're gonna try and make that percentage to kick it out onto the people outside of the city limits as much as possible, cause we can, I think heck Mason went in and I think he did like 25% over like consistently for a couple years, like where he's like, what's the little neighborhood outside of Butler across from the
Eastside Park.
He was trying to annex them, and they fought them annexing because it was no benefit to them. Like, what is the benefit from us coming to the city? Well, when they're getting water, he raised their rates to a non-residential rate, and so I think we should do the same thing. I mean, we're still paying. Well, we had $90,000 left on the loan for the sewer line going up to the high school, and they get the sewer rate is the same as what the city residents are paying for the rate. I mean, we're replacing sewer and water lines in the city. Besides the Clee Farms, the only growth that's gone on our own stuff. So all this other nonsense that we have to maintain, I think that's the best way to do it, to try and spread it out to the people outside of the city, and then look at annexing them in a couple years. They want to, that's the benefit. We have a fire department here, just solely dedicated to the city. We've got a police department that's here. You also get better rates on your water and your sewer if you annex them to the city.
So what's the timeline we wanted to do on look at like the license tax based on gross receipts? Do we want to chill on stuff for now, or just rip the Band-Aid off?
I say we just rip the Band-Aid off and get it done, because Paul's gonna come to the next meeting, so we're gonna talk about the budget then. And then I'm hoping Mark Frost will have our rate study done here really soon. That's been a slow go. Once I finally started copying Steve on the email, I finally got a phone call from the guy. So he called me last week, and so then he sent us the questions that he needed us. He just basically needed clarification on some of the things that we'd already submitted. And Paul and Christian and Don had given him all that information. So I'm going to touch base with him tomorrow and find out. So now that you have everything, he said it was almost done. He just really needed to confirm the numbers was the bigger thing of the depreciation amounts. So I'm hoping we can get working on that next month. So, and then plus we're gonna have to have 2 more meetings to even vote any of this stuff in. But we can start if you guys just want to do the payroll tax now, or if you guys want to look at.
I like the idea of restructuring how the business permits.
Okay. Do you guys?
I see nothing wrong with that.
Where do you guys want to start the minimum at then?
Depends on what the minimum is, because I know at one point, Steve, you're talking about, Stefan, sorry. You were talking about like a 1-day thing for like festivals, like that would be say $20 or $25.
I would ideally like to see something like that,
Yeah.
some provision in there that says if you're setting up like a temporary booth or something like that for like the art walk or something like that, that, you know, there's a one-time, you know, temporary fee, like maybe $20 for, you know, per event maybe, if that would be possible, or maybe do like a 2 or 3 day.
Yeah, like a weekend type thing.
Yeah, like a weekend pass kind of.
Like
if you can-
Woolfest weekend.
Yeah, kind of something like that, if you can structure it like that. And just have that for, you know, all the guys that come in that, you know, will bring their food trucks or, you know, set up their business or whatever under the tent, and just say, hey, instead of having to pay $50, we're gonna give you a break since you're just here one time. Here's, you know, a $20 break. I'd kind of like to see something like that.
Yeah.
You want to do $25 occupational daily license then?
I mean, that
Or
wouldn't
do
be
you-
bad,
I mean,
I don't know.
Or weekend? Should we just say
Yeah.
2-day
Yeah,
license?
weekend,
2-day
yeah.
Yeah,
license?
maybe 2 day, because I
Okay.
don't know of many events that we have that are multiple days.
Woolfest weekend is probably
Yeah,
like you'll
Woolfest
have a lot
weekend's
of people
probably
that set up
the
stuff,
biggest one.
but
So maybe call it a 3 day, that way it can encompass the entirety of Woolfest weekend,
Yeah.
but
Well,
no
who
more
sets
than.
up in the city?
well, hold on. We should make it consecutive then. Cause if they're gonna come back 6 months from now and set up again, then they can pay again.
So,
Oh,
So
yeah.
if they're going to, it would
Yeah,
be a
that's what I'm
consecutive,
talking
if you're
about,
gonna
yeah.
give them, I don't want it to be 3 days, well, I'm gonna do 1 day here, I'm gonna do 1 day in 6 months, another day, you know.
Oh, yeah, no, I wasn't talking 3 days per year, I was like three consecutive.
Consecutive days,
Yeah,
gotcha.
say like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or, you know, whatever, just have it run consecutive.
Well, who sets up during, in town here during the Wolf Festival? I mean,
Yeah, there's actually a lot of people that'll set up, like, they'll set up over by the Chinese restaurant, you'll have a bunch of people set up there, and, shoot,
sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
no, you're good, I'm trying to gain my train of thought, but there's actually a lot of people that'll come and set up just for Wolf Fest weekend that I've noticed myself just driving through town.
Would that fall in though? So I mean, I know we have the yard sale permit that people are supposed to get, and that
That's what I was
doesn't,
about to
that
say.
doesn't charge.
What differentiates a yard sale?
Well, I think doing it at your residence.
Yeah.
If you're gonna be a yard sale, that needs to be at your house. If you're
Fair.
taking your stuff other places,
Yeah.
but then, I mean, I don't know,
there's a fine line.
there is, cause. So how about you get a free yard sale permit still if you're doing a yard sale from your home?
Yeah.
City residents, from their home.
Yeah, but
Anybody
that's
else
limited
is paying
because
a
that's a
fee.
zoning issue. Because there are people who set up and have a yard sale all summer long, every day of the summer, but that's
But they're
that's
not
against
supposed to.
zoning, yes,
Yeah.
it's a zoning issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if they're gonna come in and sell stuff, if you're selling anything, like if you're gonna set up during Wolf Fest or set up other places for your yard sale, I think we should charge them this fee. Not just, I mean, it should be daily vendors or yard sales that are not at your house.
Ideally, that's, you know,
Cause that's what I was gonna say, is you might have a lot of people come Wolf Fest, it's a little hard to distinguish sometimes, but some of that's
Yeah,
yard
exactly.
sale nonsense and who's actually making crafts.
Yeah, if you're legitimately having a yard sale, in my personal opinion, if you wanna set up a yard sale, I don't think our residents should be paying a fee for having a yard sale.
At their house.
But, you know, let's say you do set up at, you know, that gravel lot by Ace, or you set up over there by Taco Bell and the Chinese restaurant. Okay, then I can see, because now you're not on your property, you're.
So then their option would be getting a one-time
Yeah, get a one-time
for
permit.
$25, or
Yeah.
you can pay the $50 for the year if you're gonna come back in more than once. Or whatever you guys decide to go with.
Yeah, I'd say 50 sounds good for me for like a starting for the, you know, making candles in your house type of person.
So we wanna keep the minimum at 50,
I think it's fair.
I think, okay, and we're gonna do it off the gross receipts then, and we'll just go up from the 50. Like this one, is 110.06. Like it goes up in increments of $100,000 for their gross receipts. It's like every. They started at 60, and then like the next one's 95, but we could just go up in increments of 50 if you want, or. It might be backed into, it got printed into a different one. This one start, I think it's mixed in with the 33 one.
Yeah, if you're making that much.
Yeah.
The
I mean,
drop.
this is kind of like what we should maybe.
Yeah, maybe we just change it to 50.
Yeah.
So you wanna use the $100,000 and then every $100,000 we're increasing it by 50?
Yeah, and then just
That's
on
fair.
B2, just change 60 to 50 is the minimum.
Okay, can you throw that back down? We wanna start at 50, and then just increase
Increment
by 50 using kind of that cheat sheet there, you can have that.
Yeah, so essentially on here, 2A would be $50 and
Yeah.
then B would be 100 and then
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, 500,000.
Yeah. I don't know how many stores are making that kind of money here, but we're gonna find out, and then, I mean,
Yeah, talking about gross receipts.
yeah. I don't think we should tax on the gross receipts, though. I think if you're gonna tax the businesses, it needs to be on the net profits.
Yeah, I don't, gross
I agree.
receipts would be way, in my opinion, I think it'd be way too messy on everybody to try and calculate that. It'd be a lot easier off the net profits. Not the gross receipts.
So, do you guys, for the net profits, what kind of number are you guys looking at there? Joyce, I didn't bring my cheat sheet that had all those numbers with all the other cities, with what they're charging on their net profits.
Most of them are one. Okay.
And I mean, we're just using this to draft the ordinances to get a first reading.
Oh, this one.
So we'd have to get through 2 readings. I mean, people might come here and start raising holy terror about it. And I mean, so this is just so we can get this drafted so we can get a first reading done.
Most of those cities like ours are just one. 1%.
Yeah, a lot of them are 1, some are 2, some are 50,
Well,
but it's
like Boone
one
County,
seems to
some of them
be.
have a lot of business and that kind of stuff, they do more.
Yeah.
We don't have enough business here.
We're doing too many taxes on our businesses, in my opinion.
So we wanted 1. Alright, they wanna do a 1 on the net profits. And then this is just so we can get something, a draft written. We come back to the next meeting and everybody wants to change some of these numbers, we can change it and do another reading, but it's just so we can start getting somewhere with drafting some stuff out and then eventually putting it out for a vote.
So I just wanna make sure I'm understanding this right. So are we doing a separate net profits and then the occupational license fee will be based off of gross receipts?
Yes.
Correct.
So could we not base the occupational license off of the net profits as opposed to the gross receipts? Would that be, is that
But
something that we
essentially-
can do?
I mean, it is,
I just think it will be easier to do the occupational license fee based off of net profits than it would gross receipts.
Yeah, but I'm sure a lot of these businesses around here aren't net profiting a whole bunch or not reporting on paper they're net profiting a whole bunch.
Yeah, well, that's fair.
I mean,
too.
you know, like some businesses will purchase things before the end of the tax year because they've made too much money, so they gotta get their, you know, so you're not gonna get. I don't think there would be much, everyone's probably paying the bare minimum, just the 50. If we went that route. I think that's why they use the gross receipts for that number. Does anybody else have any other questions or?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, we have no ordinances or anything. So we just have department reports, which Megan has printed off for everybody.
See that our code enforcement is not.
Do what?
I see that our code enforcement.
Eric.
Yes, he is taking a job, I know, he's taking a job with the Kenton County Coroner's Office. So, he's leaving. Our sewer camera finally came in. We haven't gotten it here yet. The guy we bought it from, JT, whatever, M-Tech, whatever the company is, they received it. Now they are gonna be scheduling with Joe and Christian to come down and give them the demonstration and give them the sewer camera. everyone I'm sure is aware of the issue over there on Sycamore Street.
What'd you say?
The issue on Sycamore where the road caved in over the sewer line. Rural Water came in, they sent, Jason from Rural Water sent Jeff from Rural Water, who actually lives in Florence, to come down and help us. They sent 811 over there to go mark and stuff. They had a gas issue, so they have been on a no dig this whole week. I'm not sure if they got that lifted finally today. Duke was down here yesterday doing work, so I'm hoping that once whatever Duke fixes whatever they need to fix or whatever's going on there with Duke stuff, then they can dig. So that's hopefully gonna start next week, and Jeff will be here to help the guys with that.
What's it do with the gas?
Yeah, yeah. When 811 came to mark the lines, there was something with the gas. So that's what held that up.
Good news.
Marty, do you want to add anything since you're here?
Not saying like you got any questions, I'm trying to do it so that I can give you the information, you don't have to wonder about it.
Thank you.
Get any clarification on, I mean, they're pretty self-explanatory, security checks. The extra patrols are businesses or people that have called in and said, hey, can you keep an eye on my house? That's why they're logged as extra patrols, but the businesses themselves will be security checks. So if you look at it, that's what the difference is on those numbers.
Appreciate that.
Is there any highlights you want to give? I know you've got a report in here, but
We didn't do whole one. I don't pay for half of it, but
Yeah.
we did do whole one for February.
we
March
are
is the big
having,
one.
we are having
There is a software training next at the end of this month.
yeah, KLC's coming in to do that training for the program, and then we've got a software place, Springbrook, whatever, is coming in on the 24th, or not, they're coming, we're doing a demo with them online, to look at getting new utility and, new software to help, I think, with a lot of the issues or challenges that I think the girls deal with and Juanita deals with the current software that they're using. So I'm hoping that will help. And Springbrook came recommended by KLC, so I'm hoping they might be a little bit of a one-stop shop, but I know that's never gonna be the case, but I think it would give us several things. Joe and I talked, there's some like new compliance thing about having your website where you can, I guess, if you're blind, it reads it to you or whatever, and Joe's is handling all that for all of our stuff for the city. Trying to think what else.
Has there been any updates on like the investment pool stuff since we approved that last meeting?
Everything was submitted the other day.
We submitted it. Then they emailed me back some questions that went way over my head, so I'm waiting for Paul to kind of to fill us in. It was
the allocation.
Yeah, they were asking about the allocations. So I left that for Paul to work out with them, but we sent them all that paperwork, so that should be getting moved soon. And Paul's gonna come in and kind of talk about like the LGEA money. We have like over $200,000 in there, and that's because that wasn't actually included in the budget we voted on in the ordinance. Like anything, and that was like anything we vote for it has to be in the budget ordinance for it to get spent. So for whatever reason, none of that. That's why there was all that money sitting in there still, because they didn't take it out of there. So, but Paul's gonna come in and we're gonna do the whole budget talk next meeting. But
I haven't looked at the reports because it's on that little bitty thing I gotta print them out. But anyway, what's I gonna ask? About the reserves. He didn't send that last time. Did he send it this time? I haven't looked.
I'll be honest, I haven't looked. He sent it today, and I had work to do. Then I did an interview with hopefully another public works person that comes with some licensing and experience, and then came over here to try and look at some of this tax stuff, so I haven't actually looked at it, but I did after we talked, when you were trying to figure out why the mayor council thing was so off, it was over they had put all the general insurance into our department, so that's gotten fixed. That's gone back to the appropriate
Well, I
department.
emailed him, I think I emailed him or texted him one or two, then I called, left a message, and he would call me back, but he always does, but anyway.
He'll be here, next
time.
week.
Oh, next week?
He's coming next Tuesday morning.
Maybe I'll try to get down here and see him.
Yeah, so if you wanna come down, I'm gonna meet with him to try and dive into like these other things. Yes, I have a lot of questions now at this point too, like what exactly.
You just have to keep up on that, see
Yeah.
how much reserves we have.
So I've said, yeah, he's coming down Tuesday. Cause I've got that Tuesday morning, then there's some road thing and the Tuesday afternoon, and then the Springbrook thing later on in the afternoon. Committees, you guys didn't meet.
We did not.
Did you guys discuss anything?
I mean, we kind of went over just the police patient work because the report was in front of us, so we
Yeah.
kind of just discussed that, and, you know, we went over pretty much the report and, you know, talked about the differences between the extra patrols and the security checks and, you know, all that neat jazz. So we talked about that, and then we talked about the resignation letter here for our code enforcement officer for Eric. So sad to see him go. I mean, he seemed like he was doing a good job, but I mean, I understand you can't be mad at anybody for bettering themselves. So I mean, as much as it pains us, I mean, that I can completely understand it. I know. So we did talk about that. We didn't talk about the budget at all. However, I was glancing at the budget because I got it this morning. So on lunch at work, I was kind of just glancing over it. And I can't say that, thankfully, as far as the police department goes, I've been looking at the trend at what they're projected to be over, and the last budget report that we got, they're projected to be over $75,841 and change, and now it is trending to where they're projected to be over $45,849. So that number is going down as months progress. So we've got a possibility of either breaking even and not going over, or there is a possibility that we come a little under. So that's a good positive.
Good work.
Oh, that's,
Yeah.
after you understand what you're working with.
No, it has, unfortunately, the manpower and the payroll, there's
Yeah.
not much we can do as
Yeah.
far as that part, but there are places that we can cut and we're willing to.
And that's what I
It just
told
takes us time to
Marty.
look at it.
When the conversation I had with him, like when we talk about cutting, I don't wanna cut manpower. Like that,
Oh yeah.
that needs to be our focus still.
Yeah.
So we need to find other ways to trim. I don't know, you guys wanna do some fundraising? What can you guys do?
I'm sure we could probably start dumping.
No, but you also, Marty did sign up. They are getting
$5.
some,
Oh, I think, okay,
yeah, there is another funding type.
I signed a mutual agreement with ICE, the federal agents, it's a task force. But, and I've got, me and Nick are currently certified, and I'm getting everybody but Jonathan certified for credentials. But the gist of the program is once we get our credentials and we become operational, we'll be eligible for a $100,000 one-time grant for equipment. Their suggestion is a vehicle, but I don't think there's any conditions on it. I think you can use it however. And then for each person that is certified with the credentials, they get $7,500 a person per quarter, and that's yearly as long as this program's in effect. My guess is this program might go out the door when Trump goes out the door.
But hey,
But-
it's a couple years from now.
So,
The sheriff's office has also done this
Yeah.
before this gets out on Facebook and people think, I mean, everybody's doing
no, and
this.
I've had bigger agencies call me when they seen that I was involved with it because of other stuff I used to do, and they're also looking into it. It's becoming a popular program, and to become operational, all we have to do is basically make one immigration arrest with ICE, and then we're considered operational. And, they will actually come in and assist and supervise. At that point, we're considered, federal agents, and we follow under their parameters and guidelines and stuff. But the whole point of it is we just have to make one arrest, and then we're eligible for this money.
Can you
So-
just make sure that who you arrest is really a violent criminal and not just somebody that got a traffic ticket? That's the only thing. And then
That
number
falls
two-
into them.
Number two, we don't want all the nonsense. Like, I don't want people to be scared of what we're doing. So really, we're just doing this for the show to get the money from the federal
Well,
government,
and,
like
and
most
a lot of
everybody
it
else.
is, it's
Yes.
targeted for the violent offenders that are automatically gonna be deported, whether they're convicted or not. That's what the program is designed for.
They've actually got a list of people that they, you know, that's why we're considered part of the task force, because they're already looking at people, and basically we just assist them when they come into our area.
But
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I did notice that in the budget, so thank you guys and girls over there. I know you guys are putting in a lot of hard work, and
Appreciate it.
So I'm gonna beat the popular drama that usually will come about once the weather breaks. Is everyone ready to start replacing hydrants again?
no, they're getting done. So we've already talked about that. I need to put an order in on this though. I gotta
Are
figure
there
out
any that need to be
what
replaced?
Because I was wondering how many were left. How many left we have on hand?
So they're gonna go around and do the valves first.
Yeah.
Because the water comes in, like on the street, it'll come in from both ends. If you don't have the valve to be able to shut there's supposed to be a valve on every hydrant and these things. Well, they're supposed to be exercised every year and they weren't, and we've kind of gone through all this, and Richard had weeks, and I think I gave him 2 weeks just to go do that, and he didn't get out and exercise the valve, so they still don't know for sure. Now they're actually marking it, so they know that some of the ones that work because they worked them. So that is what they're doing first, is going around, because every year you're supposed to do valve exercising on all your valves.
Mhm.
Most other cities kind of do it. They'll be like, hey, this week we're doing valve exercise, and they'll spend that week or a couple days, whatever, to do that. So, and they have a actual valve exerciser thing instead of doing it with the old school whatever. So they're doing that first, and then they're going to start replacing all the hydrants. But that's getting done this summer. Yes.
Cool.
Any other? We just need a motion to adjourn, because I'm sure Steve wants to go home. I'm sure he's tired. How many more days of session do you guys have?
I'll second it.
Not many.
Everybody in favor?
Yep.
Yes.